Hello, everybody, and welcome to a big day on the PHLY Eagles Show, Eagles Podcast. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, as we prepare to kick off the 2-day event, maybe 3 days, maybe 5 days of Quacketology. We have whittled down the list of potential likely Eagles free agent signings when the league opens next week to 64. No play-in games here. Get out of here with that selection committee. 64. We've got 4 quadrants. We've got a secondary quadrant, a linebacker quadrant, a big uglies quadrant, and a quarterback, wide receiver, running backs quadrant, skill players. We're going to determine which player is the most likely Eagle signing ahead of next week. Zach Berman, how you doing?
Doing great. Shout out to Polar Jam, who says this is my favorite episode of the year. Polar Jam, I am happy now that it's over a few episodes because this was one that used to go on for like 3 hours.
Now he says R.I.P. Ospreys. I don't know if we're saying R.I.P. Ospreys. I mean, we have to fill some time in June.
But this is exciting because love March Madness. It's a way to combine free agency with March Madness. Was explaining to my son.
Brutal loss for the Deeks last night.
I saw Forbes' post-game press conference.
Oh, what did he say? I didn't see the press conference.
He was talking about how he told them before the game, this is for the NCAA tournament, and they made mistakes early in the game, and it cost them late.
Yeah, I mean, they did not deserve to win that game. They played terribly. However, one of the worst missed calls I've ever seen at the very end of the game. Guy just falls on the ground and travels, and they don't call it travel, and then they hit a game winner. Just pathetic.
It's tough. Sorry.
Brutal. Going to need to win 3 games in the ACC tournament now. I thought we were finally going to get back to the tournament.
I don't mean to take us off the rails, but are you going to make the trip down to D.C.? Because the ACC tournament's in D.C. this year. Typically, you'd have to go to Greensboro, but now it can be a short train ride.
Well, it's in the middle of free agency, Zach, so I don't think so.
Well, that's a good segue to what's coming up here, right? Yes.
Before we get into it, you had a couple Jason Kelce notes for the
real quick. We don't need to keep rehashing Kelce, but 2 things that I just wanted to point out. First, Joe Opella, the Eagles trainer, longtime trainer, has been with the organization since 2010, respected by the players,
loved by the players.
Yes,
I would say.
Yes, has a long touching Instagram post. Joe Opella's been dealing with cancer behind the scenes, and he has been taping Jason Kelce ankles, hands for the past 13, 14 years, right? And so he was not able to travel to the game in Tampa, and he expressed kind of regret that he wasn't there to tape Kelce in his last game. And by the way, there's a lot that Jason has done for Joe and that Joe has done for Jason kind of behind the scenes, but as a gesture of appreciation for Joe Opella and the relationship that they have, Jason Kelce had Joe tape his ankles before that last press conference. So if you saw Jason Kelce with taped ankles, that's
Julia's now. Yeah. This is her 3rd time.
Yeah,
Jason Kelce, and I don't blame her. I think what a beautiful sentiment.
Real beautiful sentiment. And I did have people ask me, why did he tape his ankles? Well, that's the answer. It's a touching tribute. And I imagine there's a lot of people who have stories like that about Jason. And by the way, I would also say, as much as that speaks about Jason, it also speaks about Joe Opella, that Jason would want to do that and the relationship that the two of them have.
Yeah, and we always talk about there are so many people behind the scenes around the team who are very important to the team, and Joe is very much among those. And as we said, a guy who is loved by the players on the team. So, and
then the second, Jason Kelce has a podcast. You might have heard of it, and I think they need listeners, so you can go and you can listen to exactly what they said. But just paraphrasing real quick, Jason Kelce and Travis had their podcast today. We don't have to get into everything. He kind of gave behind the scenes of that speech. But one thing that's newsworthy that's worth pointing out is he explained why he's not playing anymore, why he retired. He said physically the body was deteriorating, and he was getting to a point where he wouldn't be able to play next year at the level that he would want to play. It hasn't hit him on game days yet, but he saw it coming. And Jason Kelce always told us that there's going to be a time, as Jeff Stoutland told him, there's going to be a time when you're not going to want to play, physically. It just got to be too much. So I thought that was an astute observation, because the one thing that the press conference didn't get into, or I should say the speech did not get into, is why. And that's really the why right there.
Well said. That's good. That's a good tip. I'll try to check out that podcast.
Yes. Yeah. They want to boost their ratings, so check it out.
Second best Eagles podcast.
Agreed.
Okay. All right. Let's get into the action here because we got a long way to go. We're going to do the first round today, so all 32 first-round matchups, and then we will move on with the rest of it on tomorrow's show. Maybe the Final Four on Friday if tomorrow's show has a special guest that we're efforting to get. Let's start, Zach, in the secondary region. Okay, let's call this the Rodney McLeod region.
Shout out to Rodney.
And
great signing for them.
We start with a cornerback matchup, a player we discussed yesterday, L'Jarius Sneed. Got the franchise tag. Could the Eagles be interested in trading for him? L'Jarius Sneed versus Akello Witherspoon, who had a good year with the Rams, is 28 years old, I believe. Actually turns 29 later this month, and has really only been healthy for 1 year in his career. That was last year. Maybe not the guy you want to pay for.
Yes, I hear what you're saying there.
Let's set the ground rules. First of all, this is who we think is most likely to be signed, not who they should sign. And if you and I, what's nice about this is we have to come to agreement. Even if we disagree, maybe Julia can break the tie. But we should try to form consensus.
I don't think the Eagles
do some Jed Bartlett consensus building.
I mean, we can all aspire to be President Bartlett.
He's not a real person.
I don't think the Eagles are going to go the journeyman route at corner. So even though I expressed, I did not expect them to make a big play for Sneed yesterday, given that you'd have to give up a draft pick. I would think of the two, they would be in the Sneed camp more than the Witherspoon camp.
I agree with you. I think we can expedite that one and move it on. L'Jarius Sneed moving on to the second round in Quacketology. Congratulations to him. All right, I think a fun matchup here.
Yeah.
Two of the top guys at the safety market, Xavier McKinney, who we have talked about a little bit, and Cameron Curl from the Washington Commanders. Both of these guys young. This is going to be their first post-rookie contract. Curl is 25, just turned 25. Xavier McKinney turns 25 before the start of the season. Curl, very reliable, but not much of a ball production guy. 3 interceptions his first year, hasn't touched the ball since, a couple fumble recoveries. Xavier McKinney, I think, a better player. Both of these guys in the division, both of these guys probably going to cost, I think McKinney, maybe you're looking at like 16, 17 a year given the market, and Curl maybe more like 13, 14, something like that. How do you break this one down?
Well, first off, I'm going to put on my Jim Boeheim here, and I'm not thrilled with the selection committee.
Off the road, everybody.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh at that. Okay.
You know that's where that's going when you say that.
I did not know.
Either that or I can, I'm going to start yelling at Anthony DeBundo.
well, that's what this is regarding here.
Don't ask difficult questions of me.
I'm
Jim Boeheim.
I'm not thrilled with the selection committee here because this is a premier matchup. I would like to see this on the final weekend or maybe in the Sweet 16 to make this in the opening round. I get what you're doing. You're putting the two high-priced guys together. It's not like these are seeded. It's more thematic. The matchups, I get that, but there's some other matchups where I would have liked a better first round draw.
We got to spread the love a little bit. Sometimes
players.
you need it good. If we just have easy first round matchups, what kind of show is that?
Sure. So, anyways, to answer the question, I would go McKinney here as more likely. I think McKinney's the better player. The price tag makes me a little skeptical on McKinney. I saw in Shield Kapadia's piece he thought he thought the Marcus Williams contract was maybe in the ballpark, and
for McKinney,
okay. And if you're talking $14 million, that's more in line with I think what the Eagles might be willing to pay. Now, if you're factoring in inflation,
there was a thought that maybe the Giants would transition tag McKinney, right? And they chose not to. I think Jonathan Jones reported that part of the thinking was that because Duggar got the tag, that would make the McKinney market, if he got the tag, like too prohibitive for them. It didn't really make a lot of sense to me because you can also rescind the tag and still get the comp pick. I think it's just not a well-run organization.
Yeah, that's...
So if you're doing the exercise of why is this guy available, like it seems too good to be true, maybe it's just that it's a bad organization.
It just strikes me as odd that a 24-year-old playmaking safety. He has coverage skills. He can do what you want from that position. A former high second round pick that he would be that they would let him hit the market. So this is a matter of price, but he's the player to circle back to Friday's show. I think you hit it on the head. If you're going to pay someone big money, he's the player that I would target outside of like an edge rusher. He's the player that I would target. And it's just how high would that go? But between these two, McKinney and Curl, I like McKinney more because I think he's a better athlete, and I think there's more coverage ability there.
Now, you have done a good job sort of like recycling the Malcolm Jenkins free agency, right? When there were two bigger safeties, TJ Ward and Jarvis Bird.
Yep.
Like those were the guys at the top of the market. Bird was coming off that crazy interception season. But like, I think if there are several really good players and the price is not super different, I want to make sure I get the best of them. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some guesswork as to who is the best, and like the Eagles probably thought that Jenkins was the best. I think they were a little bit interested in Bird, not so much Ward, different type of player, right? But like Cameron Curl, to me, I don't want to pay a premium. I don't want to pay a premium price for the guy who's like the second or third or fourth best option on the market.
I agree with what you're saying there, and I just think McKinney's the better player. I think with Curl, you're paying a bit of an inflated price. And by the way, if the Commanders are just flush with cap space, right?
Yeah.
If they're not,
now they do have some safety depth. That is part.
Sure. Yeah, they drafted Jatavius Martin last year.
Our friend Percy Butler,
Louisiana Tech. You were all over that one. So I hear you there. I think McKinney's the better player, the more likely option. It just depends on price, but it's interesting to call back to Marcus Williams, because if you're saying the Eagles don't pay for safeties, no, the Eagles were willing to pay Marcus Williams. They actually went hard after Marcus Williams. They did not get him. Marcus Williams chose Baltimore. That was not based on the Eagles' contract. That was just him wanting to play for Baltimore, and that's a fascinating sliding doors, because who knows what would have happened with A.J. Brown or kind of thereafter if they committed, 14, 15 million to Marcus Williams. But yeah, are you in line that McKinney's the more likely option?
I think of the two, I agree. Okay. McKinney. I just sort of think I am still not convinced that the Eagles want to spend a lot of money on a safety. I think they might want to bring in an Eddie Jackson type to sort of get through the first few weeks of this season. He can be the starter if he looks good and is healthy, and eventually you expect it to be Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown moving forward. I don't think that's unreasonable, but they're going to add somebody of real significance who is in their prime on defense this year. That I feel very confident about that.
Yes.
And just given the options available, if it's not L'Jarius Sneed or J.C. Horn or some trade target at corner, there's no corner on the market. And at linebacker, I think they would like to add a really good linebacker to be here for a couple of years. But would you rather spend, $15 million on Jordan Brooks or on Xavier McKinney? I would much rather spend it on Xavier McKinney.
I agree with you. And I think I agree with everything you said in terms of the Eagles being players. Something I wrote today. That's my expectation. The only variable that we really haven't discussed is that if Hassan Reddick's camp comes back to them and says, all right, this is the contract we can get, and the Eagles say, oh, we can pay you that.
Right.
We're willing to pay you that. So let's say it's $22 million or $23 million. Then if the Eagles are paying that to Reddick, and even though the cap hit would be lower in year one, they would probably view that as their big ticket signing to a certain extent, and then maybe you go in more of the $5 to $7 million range at safety
and a couple guys
and at linebacker. Yeah,
I think that's possible. All right, so Xavier McKinney moves on and ousts Cameron Curl. We move on now to a matchup of some Vic Fangio connecting safeties. Deshaun Elliott, who was with Fangio in Miami last season, and Eddie Jackson, who we just talked about, who had the best stretch of his career with Fangio in Chicago. The Dolphins thing is interesting because there are so many of these Dolphins defenders available, and there are several of them in our bracket here. We have heard that there was some acrimony with the players and Fangio, so it's hard to tell which of those guys would even want to play for him or which of those guys Fangio would want. But Elliott is a guy who he'd played a lot last year. Fangio seemed to trust him, but I would lean Eddie Jackson here.
So we have our first disagreement here.
Okay.
So Elliott, first off, longtime viewers recognize that, or I shouldn't say recognize, remember.
Is it Deshaun Elliott or is it Elliott Deshaun?
It's Deshaun Elliott.
Okay.
Remember that he was someone I was particularly bullish on 2 years ago when he signed with Detroit in this game. I liked him when he was in Baltimore. I liked him coming out of Texas. And I think when you look at the career arc in Miami, he joined Miami last year with Fangio. Presumably Fangio wanted him.
Good point.
Presumably, we see based on playing time, he's someone that Fangio trusted. And when you just look at the age curve, even though he's going on to his fourth team, he's still, 27 years old?
Turns 27 in April, yeah.
Yeah, so, look, Eddie Jackson is the more accomplished player. With Eddie Jackson, you're getting someone who's thrived in this. He's thrived in this scheme. You're getting someone who has ball hawking ability. But between the two, I just think the profile for Deshaun Elliott makes sense. Now, I can see the Eagles going with the Band-Aid at safety, understanding that you're going to get Sidney Brown back and healthy at some point here, and they do like Reed Blankenship. But if you're going to be a player in free agency this year, everything we've heard is that they're looking to get younger, and they're looking for guys who can be with them for a few years.
I think this is an interesting one, and maybe this is one where it would have been nice to separate them because I think they both make sense because Elliott is a guy, as you said, the Dolphins signed him last year, presumably at Fangio's behest, and you're thinking of like this middle class of free agents. If you need to like a guy more than everybody else.
Sure.
That they did that last year with Fangio, right? So that would make some sense. I just think that Eddie Jackson represents, like, if they go down that path, Eddie Jackson will be the guy, I feel like. And so I lean towards Eddie Jackson because I don't feel confident that Deshaun Elliott is the guy who they like the most in that middle class.
And to your point, this is his third crack at free agency here. He's going to be on his fourth team in 4 years, right? I mean, even though we are expecting Vic Fangio to have say and clout, Howie Roseman's had chances to sign Elliott before, and they haven't done it. So, look, if you say we're going to give Eddie Jackson the survive in advance here, I'm okay with that because of the player, but I think the Eagles are going to steer more toward a mid-20s guy. I'm just not ready to pound the table for Deshaun Elliott.
Right, would you rather pay Deshaun Elliott $6 million or like all of these other guys we're going to talk about, Jordan Fuller, Geno Stone, Jordan Whitehead, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Darnell Savage? It seems reasonable to me that one of those guys they might like more than Deshaun Elliott, whereas if they're going the 30-year-old route, I don't think it's going to be Quandre Diggs. I don't think it's going to be Tracy Walker. I think it will be Eddie Jackson.
Plus, he was the thumbnail today. And
that should be. That might be the tiebreaker.
We can't knock him out in the first round, right? I mean,
that's good. That's good TV writing. It's like Ned Stark.
Yeah, people are tuning in and he's not there, right? Yeah. So, all right, fine. Okay. Let's have Eddie Jackson move on.
Okay, that was good consensus building. I think that was a nice way to do that. All right, we move on now to another safety matchup. Justin Blackmon. Actually, Julian Blackmon, and a nice job by you calling out that on the episode before the show. Julian Blackmon from the Indianapolis Colts, good player, injury history, young, against Jordan Fuller, the guy who combines the Ohio State Malcolm Jenkins pedigree and the Rams Rodney McLeod pedigree, another young player with starting experience, championship experience.
Yeah, North Jersey guy, so you know he can handle the tough fans in the Northeast, right? Blackman's someone who, if memory serves, you liked him coming out of college a few years ago when the Colts still
sounds generally familiar, but not something I'm going to pat myself on the back for.
Had a productive early career with the Colts, then dealt with injuries, was back last year. I gave my forward case last week. He's someone when you look at gives you that quarterback of the back end. Although you can argue Reed Blankenship's already the kind of that role for you, but was a respected figure with the Rams, was a key player on their Super Bowl team, has starting experience, has experience in this scheme, is a good age profile. I like him as an underrated player for the Eagles to sign. So I am leaning toward him over Blackmon, but Blackman's high watermark has been higher than Fuller's high watermark. Yeah,
I think this is another interesting one and continues to tell the picture of like how many options the Eagles have at safety, why it seems reasonable that they would not go the Eddie Jackson route because there are going to be so many guys in their prime available. I think I agree with you. I would lean Fuller here. Now Blackman, Nick Sirianni's going to have like, I got some Julian Blackman stories as we go through our free agency meetings, right? Yeah. Like what a rookie performance that was for him.
He's going to do a Shaq Leonard recruiting pitch,
right? Yes. And that worked out so well before. But I think Fuller, there's a little bit more dependability. Now he had an injury-plagued 2022 season, only played 3 games. But I think just what I picture, like the storytelling of the Eagles, what they're looking for, I agree with you. I would lean Fuller. I think Blackman is actually very possible and could look like a bad first-round elimination. But
yeah, look, as I said, his high watermark is one of the top young safeties in the league. I think with Fuller, what you're looking for is more of like a down the middle base hit, right? You're not necessarily looking for your next top of the roster player. You're looking for a core starter for the next few years. It's probably more of like a Roddy McLeod type signing than a Malcolm Jenkins one. Although they signed McLeod for more than Jenkins. They didn't expect Jenkins to become one of the best players in franchise history.
Right. And yeah, I think it's a little bit more cost conscious.
Yeah.
All right, next up, another safety matchup. Geno Stone, unturned from...
you love that joke.
I do love that joke. I mean, like, no Stone. How could you not just finish the sentence? He's only 24 years old, turns 25 in April. Finally emerged as a full-time starter, although not like every single game, more of like a second, third safety with the Ravens this year, a member of the 2020 Eagles shadow draft. Good job by whoever put that together. Good player, but like athletically a little bit limited. Smart player. You wonder about like taking him out of what was such a good defense. How is he going to look in a defense where a little bit more is asked of him? He goes up against Jordan Whitehead, a one-time Quacketology champion who the Eagles should have signed because he went on to have a very productive 2-year stretch with the Jets. And he is just a little bit older, but still sub 30, and has gotten his hands on a lot of balls over the past couple years. Let me just find out exactly how old he is. He turns 27 later this month.
Yeah, so look, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you, right? Jordan Whitehead, I was all about him in the free agency 2 years ago.
We loved him.
I was touting it. I was saying this is the type of player they're going to go after. This makes a lot of sense. I think I was really speaking up about Andy Weidel then and the Western Pennsylvania part of it.
Okay.
And then Jordan Whitehead goes to Joe Douglas and the Jets. So Geno Stone, you had him in your shadow draft. I believe I had him in my final mock draft that year, coming out of Iowa. You know what? I say don't pay for a career year, but I think that Geno Stone probably would be the one that I would lean toward here. I don't know what the dollar figure would be. Once again, the Eagles had a chance at Whitehead before. Still a young guy. Has that winning experience, was with Tampa when they won the Super Bowl. But, I mean, I don't feel strongly about either of this. This is a good matchup. I don't think they're going to sign Stone, but if you're looking for kind of like a smart, productive player in the back end, that's what Geno Stone would give you.
Yeah, I think I was actually initially leaning Whitehead, but what I think Stone gives you is a young player who can be on the team for a few years, but is not necessarily like coming in with the expectation that he needs to be in every down player. Like this is a guy who is comfortable being a rotational player. Now, he might be able to get that opportunity somewhere, and he probably should, but if he comes in and is the starter, but there are packages when it's Sidney Brown on the field instead of him, maybe that makes sense. I think, the fact that they didn't really go after Whitehead 2 years ago is a little bit of a flag, but I think Whitehead is more of a plug-and-play starter, but maybe you can sort of convince yourself that there's upside on Stone. I could go either way. I will let you make this decision.
Whitehead also, I was going to say Stone also from Western PA. So these are, it's like a big Pittsburgh rivalry here. They're putting French fries in their sandwiches. Let's go Geno Stone because we've already been fooled.
You're popping the Whitehead pimple.
Well, it's because we've already done the Jordan Whitehead thing, right?
We're somewhere new now.
Yeah. Let's. Well, and I learned this from when I started the show with you and Sheil, is that you can always go back to the guy you said that, we loved him 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, sure.
So you cover your bases when you go Geno Stone. We already have.
You can pretend like you said that the Eagles were going to use their second first-round pick on Nolan Smith because you pretended you said they were going to get him first.
We already have property on Whitehead Island. Let's stake some. Let's put our bid in on Stone Island here.
Okay. Next up, we've got Alohi Gilman, safety from the Chargers, a little bit undersized at 5'10", 201, turns 27 in September. Emerged as a full-time starter for the Chargers this past season with some starting experience mixed in there in the past. Has had some injury issues, but a good, competent player on the back end. Full name, Alohi Laniokala. Alohi Laniokala.
Good job.
He goes up against Quandre Diggs, who was released by the Seahawks yesterday. Older player, friends with Darius Slay from their time together in Detroit. He is another like Eddie Jackson type 1 year Band-Aid player. Where do you go on this one?
Love Quandre Diggs when he was with the Lions and with the Seahawks. Thought that was one of those like foolish Lions trades that they made. He turned into a big-time player for the Seahawks. I don't think the Eagles are signing a 31-year-old safety, so I would lean toward Gilman here. I don't have strong Gilman feelings, but I would rather go with the 26-year-old than the 31-year-old.
Okay, I'm okay with you on Gilman. We can truncate that one. Move on to the penultimate matchup of the secondary quadrant of the bracket. Our only other cornerback matchup, and that is Christian Fulton, who we talked about a little bit yesterday. Titans corner had a really good year 2, year 3, and then disappointing in year 4 in his contract year, got benched, then got injured. Or Amik Robertson, who we also talked about yesterday from the Las Vegas Raiders, a little bit undersized, more of a pure nickel, but can play on the outside. Both of these guys young and able to add to that cornerback room.
Yeah, Fulton fits the profile that I talked about last Friday and what I look for in free agency. You're definitely not paying for the career year. It's similar to the Connor Barwin, similar to the Malcolm Jenkins, where he's coming off a down year, but he's shown high-level ability in the past, has the draft pedigree. He was a high second-round pick. He's been a productive player. If he was a free agent going into last year, he probably wouldn't have been paid quite a bit. And so, look, the Eagles have been burned with the LSU second-round pick before, but this is an avenue I would pursue over Amik Robertson, who I did like, by the way, coming out of La Tech, and maybe the Milton Williams, the Boston Scott, the whole crew is putting their recruiting pitch on to Amik.
I'm curious to see what the Eagles do at nickel, because I guess my expectation is they're just going to rework Avante's contract. He's going to take a pay cut. They're going to keep him around, and then you've got Isaiah Rodgers, and you feel okay there. But if they just straight up move on from Avante or let him test out the market, a player like Robertson makes sense. But I'm with you. Fulton feels like the kind of guy that the Eagles would convince themselves makes a lot of sense.
Agreed. And the age profile, the draft profile, the position, and there's a chance, if you hit on him, if he returns to form, him and Ringo could be a good pair going forward.
Okay, last matchup of this quadrant now. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who we talked about yesterday.
Yeah.
He goes up against Darnell Savage, who was a first-round pick of the Green Bay Packers. 5 years there. More of a downhill player, but disappointing last couple seasons for Darnell Savage.
Yeah, really like Savage.
Turns 27 in July.
A Delaware guy. Shout out Martin Frank. Went to Maryland. But
shout out Michael Dunn.
Shout out Michael Dunn and Marissa Dunn.
Yeah, we picked one,
Former teammates in Maryland. Yeah, Darnell and Michael. But between the two, I would lean towards C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Familiarity. I like the versatility, although you can say the same with Savage to an extent. But I think the Gardner-Johnson thing could have legs if C.J. wants to come back. The Eagles were interested in bringing him back last year. And like we said in yesterday's show, the Eagles missed C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I think Howie Roseman recognizes that as well. So this could be a way to get C.J. maybe for the deal they were offering him a year ago.
I would not be offering the same deal I was offering last year, and he's coming off playing 3 games.
Okay, but
if he wants to come back for like 85% of that offer,
even then you got him at a discount. I like it. It's like getting the car off the lot like 1 year later. So you're just getting last year's model at a good price.
There you go. I'm with you. C.J. Gardner-Johnson will defeat Darnell Savage here, and that'll do it for the secondary quadrant first round. We're half an hour into the show, and we've finished a quarter of what we need to finish. So we'll see. This might end up being a 3-day event.
Sounds good.
Before we move on, though, everybody's listening to this episode with the boys, with the fellas, with the ladies. Everybody's sucking them back. You want to have some Miller Lights when you're doing Quacketology. That makes the arguments more spirited, right? A lot has changed over the years, and one thing that hasn't is the great taste of Miller Lite. It was the original light beer, and to this day, it is still the best one. Miller Lite has more of the taste you want and less of the stuff that you don't. The best way to enjoy the moments with your friends, those memories that are going to last forever, is just sucking them back. That good old Miller Lite, baby. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, and only 96 calories. You're not going to get better than that. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer and is less filling with only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. Our good friends at Miller Lite, the official beer of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Times change, but you can always enjoy the great taste of Miller Lite. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/PHLYBirds, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories per 12 ounces.
This time of year, I'm often asked about the Eagles' cap strategy and void years and quote-unquote pushing money down the line. And I'll explain it to you the way that it was explained to me by someone in the Eagles front office. Would you rather pay all the cash up front for a home, or would you rather get a mortgage? Well, let me tell you about Mortgage CS. Because Mortgage CS offers refinancing options, including rate and term refinances for a rate payment reduction or a cash-out refinance to tap into home equity, making it a smart choice for those with high-interest debt or funding home projects, education. The spring purchase market is almost here, and it's heating up quickly, and many clients, especially first-time home buyers, are reaching out as they want to be ready when rates drop. But this is what everyone else is doing. Given the limited inventory and the strong demand, competition is going to remain extremely fierce this year. So get in touch with Mortgage CS to prepare and ensure you will be able to stand out and make the strongest offers possible. Mortgage CS stands for Mortgage Concierge Service. So that's CS, Concierge Service. It gives you the white glove service. And Mortgage CS is an independent mortgage broker based right here in Philadelphia, given the full control of the lenders they work with. They're available 24/7, and Mortgage CS is licensed coast to coast in California, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Delaware, Florida, in Massachusetts, Maryland, in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Virginia, and Washington. So don't forget to spread the word to friends and families in those areas, even if they are Chargers fans or Broncos fans or Commanders fans or Bucks fans. I can keep on going down the list, but you get the point by now. They're there to educate and empower the clients, and they can get you the ultra competitive rates with exceptional customer service, 24/7 availability from their two owners, Alec and Ben. Tons of easy to use tools to make the mortgage process more approachable. When you hear the word mortgage, think of Mortgage CS. Think of Ben and Alec. Save Ben's telephone number, 267-391-7425 to your phone, or you can email him at ben@mortgagecs.com. Call, text Ben anytime today, day or night. Talk Philly Sports. Check out mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID number 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information.
All right, I know we got to hustle a little bit here, and we may just have to decide that we're not going to finish the first round today. Yeah. But I do have something that I got to talk about non-football.
Let's hear.
That is this has happened to me now twice in the past 6 months or so. and it's so confusing to me. You're parallel parking, and now one of the times it was a very big space. There were cars behind me, so I pull in front ways just to let everybody else go, and then you do the backup. But twice now, it has happened where like I'm backing up, and the person in the car behind me that is parked is in their car, and they start honking. They start beeping like they think I'm going to hit their car. Like, first of all, you don't think that I'm aware there's a car there? And second of all, like you don't think cars have like rear view cameras or like I'm looking? Like I know how much room I have. Okay. And this happens when it's like not even close. It's like a preemptive honk. Like what? How stupid do you think I am? And then yesterday, they honk again. I'm like, what? Are you nuts? Calm down.
I have a confession. I've been a honker in that situation.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, I have. I mean, I don't do it frequently, and when there's a lot of space, I don't. But there are times when people are getting a little close, and you're like, whoa, hold on here, okay? Just know that I am here, and I don't want to go to the body shop after this. So, and I don't want to be driving around with a knocked out bumper because you weren't looking. So I don't do this often, but there are times when it's not as much the parallel parking situation. There are times when you're in like a parking lot or something, and someone's backing up, and you're like, hey. You're getting a little close.
Now listen, there are degrees of beeps. Like if you just give like the little tap to let you know I'm there. But I'm more of a. I cannot even. It is so mind-boggling to me. I like not even close to the car. Like from me to the glass is like how close I was, and they're like laying on the horn. Like I'm sorry, am I not allowed to back up within a block of you? Give me a break.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hit your car.
I'm on your side there, but usually I'm anti-beeping.
It like ruined my afternoon yesterday.
But you know what? All right, so let's have 90 seconds on this, okay? Or 30 seconds, however long. I'm more in favor of the beeping for like the safety part of it than the hurry the F up part of it. I don't like when you're in traffic and someone's beeping behind you. It's like, what am I supposed to do?
Right. Yeah,
you see this truck right here, right? To me, the beep is for the safety thing. The beep is for don't hit me. The beep's not for hurry the F up.
I think I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
Now the old Birds with Friends listeners will know that maybe I should have beeped at that woman who was merging into my lane and hit me on the day before.
Oh yes, I remember
we
went
to New England.
Yes.
And waylaid my my travel plans.
You didn't get to see family.
My rental car.
Yeah.
It's like let you know I'm here.
Yeah.
Or it's like you merged incorrectly, like you gotta hello.
Okay.
And there are different types of beeps, as we said. Like somebody's looking at their phone and the light turns green, and you give the little like let them know. But yeah.
Joy, what's your position on this?
Whoever it was, if you're a listener yesterday who beeped at me, go to hell.
Wow. Are you a beeper in that situation, Julia?
I feel like when I parallel park, I don't use the reverse camera, so I'm physically turning around, so they can see that I'm looking at them, but I wouldn't be opposed to just like a little honk, if necessary.
The parking, like I saw your car, like it's not like I'm merging into a lane or something. I don't know.
Emily hates parallel parking with me. Because, I'm a fine parallel parker.
That doesn't sound like a good enough.
No.
I'm a fine parallel parker?
Yeah, I'm not a great one. I'm a fine one. No, she doesn't, because I am very conscious of the person behind me. And she's like, don't worry about them. Just park. And I'm like,
She wants you to give him a love tap. She wants you to give him the...
No. The person... Not the person behind me in the parking.
I see.
Yeah, so like if I would circle.
If you know this is going to be a couple moves, you don't want to.
Exactly. I don't want to hold up all the traffic. So I will circle the block so I don't have to hold up the traffic. And she's like, you're going to circle the block, and that space isn't going to be there. And every time she's right. So she's like, just park. You're too focused. This is her issue with me sometimes, is that you're too focused on everyone else and you're not focused on us. And it's something
Some truth to that.
Yeah, so it's something to think about.
Okay. All right, let's talk linebackers. Okay. Now we have an entire bracket of 16 linebackers here because there's no way that the Eagles are going to leave free agency without signing a linebacker, right? Let's start at the very top of the market. Patrick Queen, who is expected to be the highest paid linebacker in free agency, or Tyrell Dodson from the Buffalo Bills, who has been a part-time player for Buffalo over the past couple of years, emerged as a full-time player last year when Matt Milano went down, turns 26 in June. You can bet on a little bit of upside there, but a limited player, not solving anything.
Yeah, the time for the Eagles to get Patrick Queen would have been last year when the Ravens signed Roquan Smith and then drafted Trenton Simpson. I don't think the Eagles are going to pay top of the market price for a linebacker. That's what Patrick Queen is going to command. So by default here, I'm going Tyrell Dodson. This is not because I have a strong opinion on Dodson. This is more because I don't think the Eagles are paying up for Queen.
Okay, I'm with you. Let's move on to a pair of former high draft picks. Willie Gay from the Kansas City Chiefs, great athlete, but displaced a little bit in that linebacker room over the past stretch of the season, 26 years old. He goes up against your boy, Kenneth Murray, one of the walking, glaring Hollywood signs for why you don't draft a linebacker in the first round.
Yeah, Kenneth Murray, by the way, is the reason why Kaiser White was on the Eagles. The Chargers let Kaiser White walk so they can get Kenny Murray playing time, and Kenneth Murray did not take advantage of that playing time. Like Kenneth Murray coming out of Oklahoma, maybe this is a second chance player for you, but between the two, I think Willie Gay, for the reasons we mentioned in last Friday's show, he's available because the Chiefs are paying money elsewhere. Good athlete, Starkville High School, and I think he can kind of fit in next to Nakobe Dean.
Do you take anything from Kenneth Murray having played in like a Fangio-style defense for Brandon Staley?
It's a good point. There might be something to that. And again, I think the Eagles actually liked him coming out of Oklahoma as well. But yeah, look, if they took Kenneth Murray, you know I would give that a high mark. Former first-round pick, really high, really productive college player. Change of scenery. You're tapping into something that the Chargers couldn't. So I would give that a high mark, but I think Willie Gay is the more likely option.
Yeah, I would feel better about the chances of you getting more out of Kenneth Murray than with Willie Gay. Like, he played for Spags. They probably got the best out of him that they could.
Sure.
And is this a guy you want to pay for a second contract? Whereas with Murray, it's like, Brandon Staley probably stinks, and you get him with a professional, and maybe you can make more use of him. I think I would lean Murray, actually, but I'm willing to go Gay.
Let's go Murray here.
Try it out
Let's go Murray here because poor Ernie Sims doesn't need you to make a bunch of shark in the water jokes for the next however many months.
Yeah,
so,
he does feel like shark in the water material.
You already had that in. I believe that was in your write up.
It was.
And the longtime listeners know that's a reference to Sean McDermott talking about Ernie Sims. So let's go Kenneth Murray. Why not?
Okay. Next up, we have maybe this is another one where too good of a matchup for the early rounds, but we've got Jordan Brooks, another former first-round pick from the Seattle Seahawks. He turns 27 in October. He goes up against Blake Cashman, Brian's son, who emerged as a pretty good player in the middle of the Texans defense last year, but more of a journeyman, time with the Jets as well, and he turns 28 in May. He is actually not Brian Cashman's son.
Yeah, I was about to. I just want to confirm. I also want to make clear, I've heard Blake Cashman described as a sneaky good athlete. There's nothing sneaky about it. He's a really good athlete. That was always like his rep coming out of Minnesota. Really good athlete. Actually, someone who I thought they in the past,
one of those real classic square jaws.
Okay. In the past, I thought they would pursue him when Nick Rallis was here because I know him and Nick Rallis have a background when he was at Minnesota. But between the two, I think Jordan Brooks is the more likely target. You're saying that maybe Zach always leans toward the former first-round pick. I think Jordan Brooks has been a productive player with the Seahawks, and sometimes when there's a new coaching staff, you kind of get lost in the shuffle. He
looks like Josh McCown procreated with a Rubik's Cube.
I don't know how you came up with that. That is a really random thing.
It looks like Josh McCown just with a square head.
I don't know how a Rubik's Cube gets to be part of the procreation process. But between the two, I will go Jordan Brooks, and I think Jordan Brooks would be a good signing. I actually wish.
You think he would be a good signing, even if he costs $16 million?
Well, not at $16 million. No, I don't think
he costs $12 million.
I think $10 million is the number I would put.
I don't know if that's a good signing.
Okay. I probably wouldn't give a linebacker $10 million. I would play more in like the $5 to $7 million area. I would try to find what Kaiser White was or Nigel Bradham was.
Brooks is probably going to get the second or third highest amount of guaranteed money in this class, right? Him or Frankie Louvu. And
yeah, you're a Louvu guy.
You think the Eagles are going to pay that?
Knowing Howie, no. But I don't know Vic Fangio, and I think Vic Fangio needs linebackers, and unless there's
I think Cashman, I feel like every time we have a disagreement, it goes my way, but I would go Cashman here pretty hard.
All right. Well, if you're pounding the table, then so be it. I did say to you at the Combine, what are your thoughts on Jordan Brooks?
Yeah,
I really like Jordan Brooks. But
this is a bad first-round matchup. Bad job by the committee here.
Yeah, because I actually don't love this next matchup.
Yeah, I think either of these guys could have won the the quadrant.
If you feel strongly about Cashman, so be it. But I also look at it this way: like the Texans have a reason to keep Cashman.
They've got they have a lot of space.
They have cap space, and he was really productive in D'Amico's defense last year. So this is one that I thought, and he was acquired by this regime, So I would think that the Texans would try to keep him. Like, there's more of a reason why he's available why Brooks is available from Seattle. They have a new head coach. They're kind of turning over a new leaf. You saw Jamal Adams yesterday. You saw, you saw Quandre Diggs. So that makes more of a reason why Brooks would be available. But if you feel strong, okay. All right, nice. You also like going with the younger guys, and Brooks is younger.
Yeah.
Okay.
By a year. Yeah.
A year in the NFL is a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think Cashman is a guy who will be on their radar.
Okay.
If he gets free, but we'll go Brooks for now. And if Cashman they sign him on at 12:30 on Monday morning, I feel like I can take a little bit of a.
You can take a whiff.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll let you take your. You could talk about your Rubik's Cube, Josh McCown thing. You can have that one.
Thank you very much. All right. Now we have a Fangio connection here. Up next, Josey Jewell, the outlaw from the Denver Broncos, 29 years old, I believe, competent player in the middle of the defense. And the other option here is friend of the Duns, Sione Takitaki, who once took one to the house against Carson Wentz.
Yeah, so honestly, that's my Sione Takitaki fact. That's what I was about to say. Don't have a strong Sione Takitaki opinion. Josey Jewell, liked him coming out of Iowa. Played well. He was taken by Fangio. I guess if you're just looking for like that solid,
both 29.
He can play the defense. I guess I would go with Jewell as more likely because of the background. But Takitaki.
How much fun is that going to be to say for a whole season? Takitaki.
Yeah. But I would go Jewell just because of the Fangio connection.
I agree with you.
Okay.
Next up, Cody Barton, who signed a one-year deal with Washington last season after being in Seattle, or Devin White, another one of your boys, former 5th overall draft pick of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Let's be real here. Can I wrote White here. Can I not go with Devin White, former
number 5 overall
just
saying who you like?
I know the more likely
for the Eagles.
I don't think either one of them is the more likely target for the Eagles. Once again, if Washington's letting someone go this offseason, then I'm thinking like, now it is a new defense, right? They're turning over a new leaf. Washington has more money to pay than anyone, but Devin White, there's a reason why Tampa Bay is not bringing him back. He has the reputation of being a freelancer. He was really productive early on there, but has not been what they hoped. So probably Barton's the more likely option. But
interesting. I think they could talk themselves into Devin White.
I could talk them into Devin White. If Howie wants to call me right now, I'll talk you into Devin White. But I'll defer to you on this one.
I think White. Okay. I don't think Cody Barton is good enough and he's too good to get paid like $1 million, and he's not good enough to be like your answer. And I don't think that they are going to sign 2 starting level players at the position. I think they're going to sign a really good player in their mind and then backfill with like a depth guy. And I don't think Barton fits in that equation. So I go Devin White here.
So I'm deferring to the Bo Wulf rankings here. And a quick aside, my brother always makes fun of me in fantasy baseball auctions where there's like a player that I like, but I'm looking at a ranking and he's like this guy's like 57. And then there's another guy who like the 37th guy is on the board. And I'm like, the 37th option's on the board. I got to go with the 37 guy. And my brother's like, do you know how arbitrary these rankings are?
Right.
Like this is just some guy putting
Pick
together.
the guy you like.
Yeah, take the guy you like. But I'm deferring to the Bo Wulf rankings here. And Devin White was 37 and Cody Barton was in the 50s, 55, I think.
Yeah.
So let's go with Devin White. I'm happy to do that.
Next up, a couple of former Los Angeles Chargers. Eric Kendricks, who was released yesterday and is the brother of Michael Kendricks, and we all agree looks strikingly similar to Jason Siegel.
Yeah.
He goes up against Drew Tranquill, who started his career with the Chargers and then was a good player for the Chiefs down the stretch last season. Both of these guys are a little bit older. Tranquill, not as old as Kendricks. Tranquill turns 29 in August. Eric Kendricks would be more of a Band-Aid. He turns 30. He turned 32 last week.
Yeah, Tranquill was one of the players who there was a story during Super Bowl week that I saw where the Eagles were actually pushing hard to get him last year, and he was deciding between the Eagles and another team and the Chiefs, and Andy Reid sent him a text about coming there, and he went to Kansas City. But so there's a background here. He's younger than Kendricks, so I would lean toward
Do you think
Tranquill.
Andy shit-talked Philly in that text?
No, Tranquill actually put the screenshot of the text up. I can actually pull this up if you want to talk real quick.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
It said, yeah. So this was he shared the recruiting text. It was he has a screenshot here. Andy Reid actually good texter.
You say that from experience?
I'm saying it based on this story.
Have you ever exchanged texts with?
I'm not going to get
Andy
into
Reid?
that.
Come on. The other thing I wrote down in my notes, I wrote down the parking thing, the Wake Forest travel, and the other thing was just to shout out the Brendan Quinn story.
Great job.
Tom Izzo's son on The Athletic, which is like, that guy's so good.
Yeah,
I
so
love BQ.
Andy Reid gave us this text. If you need to talk, my phone is on ring. Till then, see red and think Super Bowls.
Nice.
And he said, "Thanks, Coach. I'll call you if any questions pop up today as we process the decision." Andy Reid says, "Perfect." Capital P with the period, like the one sentence there.
Interesting there, where you see it's just one A on instead of the AR. And do you think he saved it as first name Andy Reid?
Yes, that's how. He saved his first name Andy Reid. But also 128 texts that he hadn't responded to. I mean, maybe Sirianni's is in there.
Yeah.
Connect, compete, and he wasn't inspired by that. But anyways, he went to Kansas City.
Sirianni just texts him rock, and he's expecting whether Tranquill's going to text back scissors or paper.
Also, Andy with the emoji. Yeah. I'm not an emoji text. I've only done like an emoji like 4 or 5 times before.
In your entire life?
In my entire life, yes. And usually, I've actually shout out to Elliott Short Parks.
It's not a hard thing to figure out.
Shout out to Elliott Short Parks. I've gotten people who've responded with emojis to me, and I will copy it, and not the whole text, just the emoji, and I will text Elliott, and I would say, Elliott, can you translate this for me? And Elliott will translate it for me. I swear to God. Shout out to Elliott.
Does he charge a service?
No, this is something that happens all the time. I had a player recently who texted an emoji back to me, and I texted Elliott, and I'm like, Elliott, what does this emoji mean? And he's like, oh, this is a really good sign. And I'm like, oh, nice, okay. But I had no idea what the emoji meant.
I mean, that's a lot of power for Elliott. He could really lead you astray. Like, what does this mean? It's like, oh, that means that this player hates Nick Sirianni. Like,
I mean, it could. Here, I'm going to pull up some of these Elliott texts. I'm going to see. I mean, I there's a lot of text in
I got a lot of text with Elliott.
Yeah, but you could probably see Elliott's more of the emoji guy.
This is wild. You have scrolled up so far.
Yeah. But anyways, Elliott can tell you he's my emoji translator.
Wow. All right.
Someone says ZB is not a good texter. No, I am a good texter in my way. Like, I think Bo and Sheila and Julia can tell you that, and Marissa, that I'm a good texter. I just don't text with emojis.
You're a much better texter on the laptop.
Oh yes, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Famously,
I'm a good typer. I'm not a yeah.
But whatever. By the way, you're also funnier that way.
Yeah, well, I'm putting more thought. I mean, when I'm texting on the phone, I got a bunch of things going on, right? Actually, this morning, Shield's going to appreciate this. That I was at 7-Eleven with my son, and he said, Dad, why do you always go on your phone when we're in the parking lot? And I said, because I don't text when we drive anymore. I used to. I did say anymore. And I said, and so Shield told me to respond to texts when we're in the parking lot. He's like, because he said, why don't
Renee, what are you doing?
He said, why don't you just do this at home? But usually when I text on my phone, it's just a quick response back. And when I'm at my computer, there's like thought into it.
Okay. All right. So Eric Kendricks or Drew Tranquil?
I said Drew Tranquil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next up, Azeez Al-Shaair from the Tennessee Titans, who was the third linebacker in San Francisco for a while, went to Tennessee, had a very good season, racked up tackles, very good against the run. Or Jerome Baker, who was released by Miami yesterday, a full-time player for them. He dealt with injuries for the first time last season, knee and ankle injuries. I think Drew Rosenhaus went on radio yesterday and explained that that's why he was released, but still a young player theoretically in the prime of his career. And we know that Fangio trusted him to play last year. Where do you go on these two?
I am going with Jerome Baker. I was intrigued when I saw that. I don't think the Eagles are going to worry so much about the comp pick formula this year, but that he doesn't affect you in the comp pick formula. Still a young player, background in this defense. I know from reading some Fangio clips that when Fangio got that job, he said Baker's a guy who has another level to him. I don't know if he experienced that under Fangio last year, but I like Baker coming out of Ohio State, and he's someone I would pursue.
Former third-round pick. I think I agree with you. I would go Jerome Baker here. I think that's one where would potentially make a lot of sense.
I also want Azeez Shittu to remain the top Azeez in Eagles history.
Okay.
Yes.
What about Azeez Ansari?
I'm a big Azeez Ansari comedy fan, although I didn't love that as the show progressed, the television show or the Netflix show.
Oh, really? I thought actually the last season, the one that he wasn't in.
Oh, yeah. No.
I thought that was some of the best TV I've seen in a while. I thought it was great.
Like he was the draw to me. I mean,
I thought that was really good.
Okay. I got to go back and watch it. I remember I watched like the first 2 episodes.
It wasn't that funny.
I'm like, I'm watching Aziz's show because I want to laugh.
Yeah, it's a much different show.
I mean, I don't need to get in the dark shows. If I'm giving up my time, I want to laugh. Anyways, Azeez Shittu, the best Azeez in Eagles history.
Okay. All right, last one.
Yes.
Your boy.
We're going to debate this one.
Jeremy Chin. You have pounded the table for him before. We put him in the linebacker situation here, mostly to help fill out the bracket. And he goes up against his former teammate with the Panthers, Frankie Louvu. Both of these guys young-ish. Louvu, 28 in September. Chin, I'm going to guess, is going to be 26. Let me double check.
Yeah, I'm not as much a Louvu guy as you are. And
from a evaluation standpoint or from a connected to the Eagles standpoint?
From an evaluation perspective. Not reporting anything with the Eagles. I wasn't as impressed with him as, I thought he was like a volume play guy, but not like a consistent play guy. I could be wrong. The Eagles' valuation is what matters. I know you went deep in this. You've really liked him. Maybe I'm colored by.
Well, now listen. I'm not like grinding the tape of every Frankie Louvu snap, but in theory, he's a guy who is around the ball a lot.
Yes.
And my operating philosophy on defense, and that's is not necessarily with Vic Fangio, but give me the volatility. I want a guy who can create big plays. That matters so much more to me on defense. If he misses a couple assignments, but can get you a turnover, that's better than the guy who's a step away from the guy he's defending every snap, but is in the right place.
Yeah, look, I hear you, and that has validity, and I can't argue with that. You have the numbers. By the way, we keep referencing this. Make sure you check out Bo's Top 100 on allphly.com. You can be a diehard for it. You get to be a diehard for it, but it's worth the price of admission.
So if you add up sacks, interceptions, forced fumbles, and fumble recoveries over the past 2 seasons, he has the most in the league along with Demario Davis.
Yes.
There's some volume to that. Now, Patrick Queen and Josey Jewell are half a sack behind, so it's not like they're far out in front. And Devin White is in there, and he is a flawed player too. So that is just a volume thing, but that is at least attractive to me.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and I'm conflicted I'm very conflicted with Chin. Like coming off a bad year where he clearly did not fit in that defense. Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? I suppose that from like a game theory perspective, shout out to Niz, if I'm picking him, then it's a chance of hitting on the linebacker or the safety category, right? But
I don't know that really. He's in the bracket. He's in. He's not gonna.
Yeah, but I'm saying
if you
them signing him, like they could sign him as a safety, they could sign him as a linebacker. Like every free agent ranking you see has Luvu high. I want to like Luvu more than I like. There's people who know a lot more about football than I do who grade Luvu higher. Just
because he wasn't drafted high, that's why you don't like him.
Look, maybe there's an anchoring bias there. I will admit that. I just didn't think that over time I wasn't as impressed with Luvu as I wanted to be, and I do think that you have to be able to cover to play linebacker in the NFL. So that factors into it here. You're absolutely right. He's around the ball. He makes plays, but I don't know if Chin fits this defense, but I do know that the Eagles really liked Chin in the past, and that he's someone that they talked about trading for in the past.
I think that Chin is more likely for the Eagles, separate from the player. I don't think that the Eagles are going to be the team that values Frankie Luvu the most. I think there will be different style defenses that do that.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said, like, with Luvu, one thing you're getting is that a guy who can pressure the quarterback in blitzing situations, and that's not necessarily the way I think the Eagles' defense is going to play this year.
Well, I think there will be more of that than there was the past couple of years, but it's not the main thing. Yeah. So are you willing to go Chin or? Yeah, I agree. I think Chin is more likely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I like that. That's a good way to wrap this up.
All right. So we got halfway through what we wanted to get through today.
But I will say the later rounds you're not doing as much analysis on the players, right? So. Yeah. I think that's fine.
So tomorrow we'll do the big uglies and the skill guys, and then on Friday we'll
crown a champion.
We'll crown a champion, and we'll fill in whatever other Eagles news happens along the way. So L'Jarius Sneed, Xavier McKinney, Eddie Jackson, Jordan Fuller, Geno Stone, Alohi Gilman, Christian Fulton, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Tyrell Dodson, Kenneth Murray, Jordan Brooks, Josey Jewell, Devin White, Drew Tranquil, Jerome Baker, and Jeremy Chin remain alive in the quest to be crowned the 2024 free agent Quacketology champion.
By the way, Julia, you can see why in the past this was a 3-hour show. Yes.
And for all of you out there, if somebody is reversing and is not even that close to you, lay off the horn. And if they get a little bit close, maybe just a love tap, but take it easy.
And for the people in the comments, you can't fool me about emojis. I will not send an emoji unless I know what it means. So you're saying this is what it means. You should send this out. I get the joke. I will not do it. And I'm more of a words guy than an emoji guy. So I will always prefer to put words than emojis.
You know the thank you emoji?
The thank you emoji? Yeah. Which one's that?
The peach. You say, oh, thank you. Here's a peach.
There's actually, in our Discord, which you can subscribe to if you are a diehard, there's a big emoji discussion. And someone wanted to have a yes and a no emoji. And I appreciate anyone who's a Discord member, who's a diehard member. But I would say, you can just write yes or no also. I guess it crowds the messages.
Yeah, that's a much different.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, peach to all of you for listening to this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thank you so much. We are back tomorrow at noon for Zach and Julia. I'm Bo. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Talk to you tomorrow. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.